that intro, huh? Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to the show. I want to thank you all for joining me today. This is your man James with Sequential Treasures, and I'm here with something brand new for you, something new that I've been working on for quite a while, and I'm finally here to debut it. Here it is, the debut episode of the Sequential Art Showcase, and it's soon to be, I'm sure, YouTube's biggest comic art show on the platform here. And I want to thank you all for joining me today, and just to let you know what this is all about is Sequential Art Showcase is all about me and an artist getting together, and we talk about some of their art because I own a piece by the artist and they have some of their own art, and we each take a piece and we show it off to you guys so we can talk about it. And you guys get to learn a little something about the artist, and you get to learn something about some art as well, and just a little fun thing for everybody. So we're gonna get that going for you here, and again, I want to thank you all for joining me today, and just remind you to drop some likes down there if you like what you see here. Any comments, please drop them down below. I'd like to hear what you guys got to say, and please make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss content like this that I'm putting out on the regular now. And if you have subscribed, please share out some links so others can come in and join us, because we always say the more the merrier. So today I got my first artist. This is the premiere episode, so I hope you guys give me a little bit of grace here with some of the boomerang I will probably end up doing before the day is over. But right now we're going to get into our artist, and today is one that is very special to me. I've worked with this man in the past, and he's definitely a true gentleman, artist, and scholar. He's done work for Marvel on books like Cloak and Dagger and Doctor Strange. He's worked at Dark Horse on Barbed Wire and Agents of Law, and of course he's now doing more stuff in the crowdfunding area. He just recently did the back cover for the Kit Carter graphic novel for Aaron Presti, and just last year did the cover for the Overstreet Price Guide. So here it is, the man, the myth, the legend, the man who knows how to make the ladies' faces look lovely, Mr. Dan Lawlis. Dan, welcome to the show.
Make the ladies' faces look lovely.
That's right. That's it. They do. Your women are like
I was wondering
beautiful...
where you're going with that, because it was like, make the ladies, and I was like, what? Hey, what's they're gonna say something about what do I do to the ladies? Wait a minute, just drawing. I thought I was gonna make the ladies make the ladies go nuts.
Extra. Well, hey,
but that never happened.
They go nuts for you.
That never happened yet, and I don't know if it's going to happen. Probably not. I'm pushing 60. I don't think. I think my prime is past with the ladies, anyways.
Well, I don't know. Tom Jones is in his 60s. He's going to get the ladies throw the panties up on the stage. Who knows, Dan? You go to a show and draw some sexy ladies. You might be getting the same treatment. You never know.
Is that what happens? Okay. Well, I'm married, so that's too. I can't do that anyways. But.
Well, that would probably put a damper on it then, yes.
Yeah, that might kind of throw a wrench in things a little bit. Yeah, sure, I would think so. Good for me, though.
But I want to thank Dan for joining me today, and we're going to get into some of his artwork here. But before we do, of course, we'd like to have a little bit of a discussion here with the artist. And so tell us, Dan, a little bit about your career, what you've been doing, what got you into wanting to do comic book art in the first place?
Oh my gosh, of course I loved them the first time I saw them I remember the spinner racks and going into places, and when I was a kid in the 60s and growing up in the 70s, everybody read comics. It just because they were everywhere. They were in every convenience store. They had spinner racks, and they're colorful and they're fun, and man, I probably the first ones I read were like Archie and stuff my siblings had and that sort of thing. But then I would go to friends' houses and I saw, the superhero stuff, and whoa, that was really cool. But also, my mom was an artist, so I think that was instilled in me. I loved art. My dad was a salesman. My mom was an artist. So my dad had packets of 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper printed on one side with the information. He would send out in envelopes for solicitation for the products he sold. He sold soap products. It was blank on one side, though, so I had stacks of paper that I could draw on, and I would just go through these stacks and draw. And I loved drawing. So, but when I first bought comic books, I was with my paper out money, and oh my gosh, I love the art, and I approached it as art, and I looked at these comic books. I literally had I remember having 6 or 8 comics, and I call them art lessons. That's how serious I was at a young age to drawing comic books. I really loved the art, and I copied them. And one of those, this is how I had an eye for art, because one of those was, because I would sit there at the spin rack and just go through every one looking at the best art. One of those was Marvel Masterpieces, Silver Surfer versus Thor. And that was the John Buscema stuff. And I still to this day, think that's an incredible issue. So I would. That's why I got exposed to a lot of different kind of comic books. I would buy the Judge Dredd comic books because I saw Brian Boland's work there, or Cam Kennedy, or some of these other guys, and the British guys. Then the South American artists, all the stuff of the eerie, creepy Vampirella, Jose Gonzalez, that kind of stuff. All of those, he could draw women like, and that's where I learned how to draw women and that kind of stuff. So all that stuff is just, I
That
was
would be the next
always,
question for you, Dan. Is who were some of your influences? As into your art, like that made you say, "Wow, that's really cool. I want to do something kind of like that." Who were the people who inspired you and helped you to develop the great style that you have now, where you're so great at drawing the ladies as well as drawing great action and great dynamics in the images? Who was the ones who inspired all that in you?
well, I was in high school and I loved comic books at the time. And someone kind of saw my drawings were all over my notebooks and stuff. And a guy came up to me and said, "Hey, I got a book for you, and you're gonna love it." And I'm like, "I've seen how to draw comic books before. There's no. I want to draw how to draw real comic book, book. Well, the next day he brought me How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way by John Buscema and Stan Lee. And I was like, I had been handled the Holy Grail. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this. Because I mentioned I had some comics, but not a lot. Because I had to buy, I got made $10 a week paper route money. I couldn't, buy if you bought four comics, it's $1. It's like there goes your money. But I was not into saving my money, but oh my gosh, I ate that book up. I was like, and Stanley's in that book, not just the art of John Buscema, but Stanley's in there going, "We only want the true believers. We want make that the Marvel way." So I'm like, "Oh yes, sir," and I'm trying, so I really ate up John Buscema's work. But I also had the influence of, this was probably even before that. This is in grade school where I first got exposed to Frazetta, and I was in my Catholic grade school library, 8th grade, and we had to pick out a book, and I saw Conan the Usurper from across the room pretty much, and I saw that cover with him chained to the stone floor and the snake going between giant snake going between his legs. I thought, oh man, that's cool. So I got that. I still have it. It's completely disintegrated, but uh, and I read that and I was just like, oh, this is, and the Robbie Howard stories were fantastic too. So I remember looking at the inside cover and seeing there was a list of more. Like, oh my gosh, there's more. So I had my dad take me to the bookstore and I bought with my own money, my paper route money again, books. I never bought a book before. So I'm buying books, and so I had the Frazetta stuff. So when I was in high school, I had the How to Draw Comics book, and then guys brought into art class that those large sort of print books of Frazetta, and I could not believe these books existed. And so I went out and bought those. I bought Boris, and of course he could draw the ladies too. So back then, when you drew women, you really had to draw them well and draw them beautiful. That there was no kind of stylistic version of women. You drew realistic, perfectly beautiful, voluptuous women, and that's why it's part of my skill set today. Because frankly, I think guys don't know how to do that today because they didn't study these classic artists, the ones who were and things like people like Frazetta and Buscema, they were classically trained. They went to art school and learned how to draw realistic people and real paint and draw realistically, and that was influencing into their art. People don't do that today. Now they're copying Jim Lee or something like that, and it's nice, but it's stylized. It's not realism. And so that's why people look at me and go, "Gosh, you can draw really nice women," But it's the classic training that's being passed down to me through these classical artists are the ones that really were influencing me, and I mean that's why it's coming out now, and people are seeing that there's no substitute for just classical training, good solid drawing. Which gets me to my How to Draw Comics, How to Draw Comics by Dan Lawlis YouTube channel, where I'm trying to pass on all this information, and it's all there for free. How to draw figures, how to draw faces, how to do perspective, how to do understanding color, all these things that I'm passing along. And I don't want to. Someone said, "Hey, put it on Skillshare." You can make some money. And like, no, I want it free because artists are poor. And I remember that being a poor artist when I was starting out. I want this stuff to be free. I want to see great comics happen. And if I have to train them myself, I'm going to do it. You know what I'm saying? I want give me good comic books, and I'll teach you how to do it if you don't if you can't do it. You know. So
I'll give you the training. You just give me good comics out of that.
I'll tell you how to do it now, and I'll get to work. You know, make me my comic books. You know, because I'm actually disappointed in some ways how comic books have become too stylized. You know, because it's especially the anime influence. Kids like that because it's easy. You know, and people get offended when I say that. It is easier to draw anime faces and stuff because you don't have to learn the construction of the face. You have to draw from different angles. It's very complicated to draw realistically. Drawing anime is
shapes to do anime.
Like if you said if you sat down, a bunch of 8-year-old kids and said, draw this anime character. Now draw this Norman Rockwell painting. They could all draw a lot of them could kind of do an anime. They're not going to do a Norman Rockwell. You know what I mean? It's a higher skill set. So that's what I try to do is train people in that realm. And I'm doing, I do everything. I do painting, and like you saw a couple days back where I did the other day where I did the charcoal drawing on the Graybeards show. And that's as old school as it gets. Charcoal, that's what they use from the fire. They would use that stuff and draw on paper.
They wrote all the caves with.
Pretty much cave drawings, yeah. So that I can do that, and I can teach that too. So actually, I did it on their show, but I should really do a show on my YouTube channel, a tutorial on how to use those tools. So yeah, the influences were strong. So Frazetta, classic. Frazetta, my influence were all the classics. Frazetta, Buscema, Gil Kane, John Romita, Gene Colan. Not so much Jack Kirby, because Jack Kirby was also stylized. And I remember I didn't really care for his work when I was younger. Now I love it because I see how that stylization was really quite brilliant.
I think it's the same for a lot of people with Kirby. It's like when you're first, like again, when I first got into comics, I remember, I saw his work and it looked very simplistic. And so, and I had guys like, Jim Lee, McFarlane, Michael Golden, these guys out there doing these humongously detailed art. It's just like blowing your mind. It's like almost
Art Adams.
Seeing Art Adams. You had these guys, and then you see Kirby next to that. And you're like, well, this is like almost like a child's drawing in a way. And it doesn't have the same gravitas because it doesn't have all that fine detail and all that stuff in the background. And yet, as I've gotten
but he was
older,
probably he was probably doing 10 pages a day, though.
I didn't know at the time, but I learned later is that those guys, the only reason they can do what they do is because they built on the foundation that a guy like Kirby helped to create. The whole fundamentals of how you approach the comics and the way it's done to get the dynamism in the image. That's why that when they throw in all their extra detail, it all still works because the fundamentals of what Kirby did are there. And that's what I came to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So now I understand Kirby in a way that I didn't when I was younger. I was like, oh, well, that's why everything works so well, because Kirby laid the foundation for everybody.
Yeah, John Buscema, I'm sure, was looking at Kirby, and then he just applied his realistic drawing anatomy to that, and it's magic. It's like a putting together a chemistry set, and you put this, and you put a little bit of Kirby, put some John Buscema on, art anatomy skills. Bam! All of a sudden, you got realistic dynamism. I can't say that word.
Yeah,
dynamic realism. How about I'll reverse them. Dynamic realism instead of realistic dynamism. Maybe I got it right that time. I don't know, but that's right. And then, of course, I would imagine Romita was probably influenced as well a little bit by Kirby, because Romita could draw beautifully, but he wouldn't necessarily say he was that dynamic. Do you know what I'm saying? So, but once the Kirby influence came in, I think then he kind of applied some of that, got his stuff a little more punchy in that. And of course, Gil Kane was.
That's how he ended up doing such great work on Spider-Man for all those years. Is from all that, So.
Yeah, and then Gil Kane, of course, another grandmaster of anatomy and dynamic, drawing. Fantastic work. I mean, the covers that he's done. Andy Smith is putting stuff on Twitter every day, and it's a lot of it's Kane covers, and I'm just like, oh yeah, that's so good. I didn't even know. I mean, he did so many, and I just like, wow, there's another one. There's another one. Never saw that one. That's one. You know, that one's great. You know, it's incredible. So
It's amazing. So, I mean, the workload these guys put on themselves back in those days. I mean, you know, like you
oh
look
my
at the
god,
days artists, and like, you know, you know, you want to say, like, you know, again, like Kirby, for example, working on like 3 or 4 books at a time, and it's like, at the same time, and it's like, you know, who does that today? Nobody does that today.
nobody. Yeah. Yeah,
You
but yeah,
know, and
I know.
so,
So
but yeah,
though sometimes they trust their inkers too, because like I was talking to Bob Bychek once at a convention, the inker, you know, and he was given the Buscema pages, and I think it was Fantastic Four, Inferno, or something like that, and he goes, Dan, there was hardly anything on the page. Like he was like, you know, just the slightest figures and stuff, you know. And he says, I really had to finish the whole thing, you know, pretty much. So I think Buscema was just chucking it out at the end there. But even his chucking out was, you know, beautifully. He's not gonna. He can't do a bad drawing. He can't. You know, he can't do bad anatomy. He knows it, so it's going to be good, you know, from the start. But
well, again, it goes back to what we were saying, like with Kirby and stuff. Is like, you know, he may not have put in the detail in those latter days that he was putting in, say, earlier, but now he knows the fundamentals so well that he can just do quick little, you know, more sketchy style, and it still has the same, you know, intensity that it would have if it was a full-fledged drawing. And then so it
hmm
does make it kind of easier for the inker. They kind of see just from that where he wants to go, and they can take it from there.
hmm you know, it would have been interesting to see like Buscema take Kirby's pencils, put his thing on it, and then have someone else ink it. Like you know that you know it's been like a real sort of enhanced thing. But like I said, with though now that I'm older and I do look back and I now look at Kirby's work and I see that it is pop art. It's not just you know what I'm saying those weird swiggly things he did for all this sci-fi stuff. At the time, I didn't like it. It wasn't Star Wars, you know, tech, you know, kind of high tech stuff. But now that I look at it, I
Yeah.
see it as pop art and it's graphics, and it's really and it looks cool on a wall on a T-shirt or something. It's got popping colors and big, full, thick lines. You know, cool stuff,
Yes.
really.
And again, like I said, as a kid, you know, it looked very simplistic. But then when you break it down and when you really look at stuff, you can see how sometimes the most simplistic styles are actually more detail oriented than the guys doing high detail. You know, like you take a McFarlane, for example, and you see the hyper detail he puts into stuff, but it's just like if you just really broke it down, just putting the here to die, here's out, and it's not really a lot of work in the per se of like trying to, you know, create something. It's just adding a layer to what is already there. Whereas like these guys, like, you know, I saw, like, for example, I watched Tim Sale at a convention, and he was doing some sketches for people. And you know, Tim Sale's style, if you look at it, very simplistic looking, right? It's like a lot of dark shadows and a few lines here and there, and then they got the image, and then you think, oh well, that's easy to do. But I watched him, and the amount of the detail and intensive, you know, like knowing where to put that shadow, knowing where to curve that
Yeah.
line,
Oh
knowing
yeah, that's it.
where that light source is coming from so that it gets the best effect on the image, knowing all that stuff, he has to know that to be able to make it look so easy. You know, and that's what
Yeah.
it is. It looks easy because it looks simplistic as a finished piece. But when you look at all the time and all the detail and all the work that it took to bring all that together in a way that would be coherent, is like
Yeah.
almost like a mastery in and of itself that you don't see a whole lot of today.
Yeah, because like when you're drawing something, it's like especially the way I draw with some realism and stuff like that. If it's an eighth of an inch off, if the eye is a little bit too high, a little too small, it's like all that stuff has to be learned. It's all memorization and study, and then a lot of times you can't see it. You got to go back and look at it with a with a mirror or something, or look at it, you know, look through the piece of
Trial and
paper
error.
with the and so I'm just saying that you don't always see it right away, your mistakes, and you see the next day. I've done stuff and it's like, this is great. You know, then I go to bed and I woke up and like, who the hell drew this shit? You know,
Somebody's messing with
this
my
looks so
drawing while I'm
wonderful.
sleeping.
Well, it's kind of like, you know, like a girl you meet, like, oh, she's beautiful, you know, in the low light or something. And the next day,
The
like,
beer
oh,
goggles, and
really?
then you wake up the next morning like, oh God, what did I do? What was I thinking?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, speaking of
So,
girls, let's time to get into our artwork. So let me get this set up here, and we're gonna start sharing the screen so we can see some art. Now, this is the piece that I am bringing to the table, folks. So this is what you're going to see first is my piece. And it shouldn't be too much of a surprise to you guys, because you've probably seen it before, but you're going to see it again because it's just that good. And so, speaking of fine ladies, here we are, the cover to Barbed Wire #2 by Dan and his inker Jeff Albrecht.
Jeff Albrecht. Yeah.
Yep. And I remember when I seen this cover back in 1994 on the newsstands, looking back at me, back at the comic shop on the wall there, and I just saw this. It blew me away. Just the way you got so much great composition in this film, and I mean in this image, and yet nothing is lost. You see this image and you think it might be too crowded or too busy, but it's not, because of, again, look at how you have, where you put your shadows and where you put, certain items in there, so that she still comes out clear, even in all this chaos around her. You still see barbed wire front and center. And for me, it's just a fun image because, to me, this sums up the character in one single image. It's the 4 B's of barbed wire: bullets, boobs, booze, and busting heads. And that's kind of what the character is. And so, right in one image, you got everything you need to know about the character right from Jump Street. And so I really, just like I said, this image just really blew me away the first time I saw it. And again, for folks who may not know this, some have heard this story, but others may not have. When I was working with Dan, selling his art for him a little while ago, I talked to him about this, and I told him how much I appreciated this cover. And one time when he sent me a shipment of his art to sell, this piece was in there with a little note that it was to me personally. And he said he wanted me to have this piece because of my great work with him and helping him out with selling his art. And also just because he saw that I was a true fan of the work and that I understood certain things about it that other people may not understand in that way of artisticness. And so to me, this is just a beautiful piece, and it's something I will always treasure, not just because of the great art that it is, but also the reason that it was bestowed upon me to be the standard bearer now for this piece of art. Because as we all know, none of us truly owns the art, because we're all just temporary custodians of all this great stuff. So I take a great honor in being the one to be the custodian for this piece. And so, so how about you, Dan? Give us some background. What was your take when you were working on Barbed Wire at this time? Because this is, I believe, was your first issue of the book. So this
I can still remember creating this piece of artwork, and I was really, really happy with it. And you're right, I crammed a lot of stuff in here. I like to make figures big on the page. I think those are the best looking covers. I don't like covers where the figures are tiny, unless you do something with an interesting composition. There's a giant monster or something, and you work with the composition in an interesting way. Generally speaking, though, big figures. So I like to stick them in, and this is a way I figured out to do. It's like every drawing is a problem, like a math problem. How do I solve it? And this was my solution, to make her big and then squeeze guys around in the area, and so you see enough of her. And really, and a woman, the best part of that midriff thing is really pretty hot, So it's kind of like that's kind of what you gotta some hips and some just the curvature of the woman's hourglass figure kind of. So, it was so much fun, and I also liked at the time. Just, I think I had just been working with Fred Schiller and on his stuff, and that was the first time I actually made some money because I worked for that card company, that sort of thing. So, I kind of developed my style there, and so I put up. If you notice, there's a bottle up there that says Fred Pop or something. That's for Fred Schiller.
Yeah. Actually, I was going to say, I noticed this right here, this bottle here, gross beer.
Oh yeah, I got gross beer, but Fred Pop's in there somewhere, I think. Or no, maybe I was on. Oh my gosh, maybe it was on a different. I know I put it in there. Go down a little bit. Let me see if there's another beer bottle.
No, I don't think there's another one on here than just.
Oh,
that
maybe
one.
that. I'm thinking of a different art piece of art right though. Okay, I'm sorry. But
gross,
memory's a little foggy.
Referencing anything, or is it just like maybe you were having a swig yourself while you're drawing? You're like, oh man, this beer tastes gross. Like, oh, I'll put that on the bottle. Let me do that.
No, I think I was just trying to come up with something funny. They drink gross beer or something. That sort of thing. But one of the things I love about this, and unfortunately, I'm so glad you're showing the art. I'm so glad you're showing the art.
I love this stuff right here, like the little writing on the gun, because like guns actually have this on them. They have stuff that are stamped into them this way,
I
like the
know.
type of gun it is, or maybe the caliber, and you made sure to like put that in there.
Yeah, I must have had some
I
good
mean,
reference. Yeah.
that's like the kind of small detail that a lot of people might overlook and go, ah, I could do that, but I'm not going to bother with that. I don't need to put it on there. They know it's a gun. It's a gun. It's all that matters. But yet you made sure that it looked as authentic to a gun as you could get. Like this looked almost like a real gun would look.
Yeah,
And that's just
people,
all.
especially comic fans, love their tech right, and they will tell you if that gun is not a correct gun. They want to know what it is. So if you can just go that little extra mile and give them something that's kind of cool and authentic, they love that, you know. But
Well, again,
what I was going to
and I
say
love
about this art itself, though, go scroll down to up to the top. I mean, uh, the one of the things that I hated was I think the logo covers up a lot of that arm, and I loved that arm. It was so dynamic and strong and powerful. With barbed wire
well, I
covers
love
it up. I'm like,
you put all
oh
the hair
man,
on
you
the
know,
arm too. Like, that's like a
yeah,
hairy arm, like a Wolverine arm or an Aaron Lepresti arm.
yes,
It's just hair.
yeah,
And
strong,
some of them
strong arm. And this is where I had developed my style. And I think I mentioned to you before that I was having trouble inkers capturing my work, and so I kind of had to figure out a way to simplify it. So I really and I talk Ian Aiken and Jeff Alwick were the two that really figured out because I was able to talk to them, say this is what I want to see. So I wanted fine line work, but I kept it kind of simple that they could follow it easily and it wasn't too complicated and overwhelming for them to work on. So the result was something really, really cool. And I still love it. Like that guy's face, I love his face. I think it still holds up today as good art, you know? So,
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is like I noticed I love how expressive you like. Everybody here has a different expression. Here's like a guy in total fear. Here he is in pain. Here she is like angry. I just love how you got all that expression in the image right here. I mean, all these different expressions, and yet they all work, and
mhm.
they all signify exactly what it is they're feeling at that moment. It's
Yes,
like
that
that you
guy's
see
getting
somebody.
elbowed in. He's getting elbowed in the
Yeah,
stomach, and the other guy's getting choked. But look at the see that when you're drawing something like zoom in on the one guy getting choked there, or here she's got a hand on his neck. Um, See, this is the thing about art. Now, if you are off a 16th of an inch on those eyes, the white space of the eye, or something like that, it's not going to look correct. That's the difference between good art and bad art. It's that subtle, and so when you have a good inker, you want someone who can do that precisely, which is difficult sometimes because I'm drawing it in pencil and it's a little more smudgy, and they have to interpret that. So I try to make that stuff pretty darn sharp, and then but you still need a bad inker will not understand. They have to actually be somewhat of an artist themselves because they have to be able to redraw it in essence. And so,
well,
a good
I've
inker is
always
worth
said
their
this
weight in gold.
about inkers. You can tell the difference between good inkers and bad inkers because
Oh yeah,
a good inker doesn't just know how to ink, but they know how to pencil too. And a bad inker just knows how to ink. And that's kind of how I see the two. Is like this because I've seen a lot of pencilers, but they're not very good at inking. But
hmm
I've not seen too many inkers that don't know how to do penciling. I've gone to shows and whatnot. Like I've seen guys like Randy Emberlin and others like him who will do sketches for people, and you can see they understand how to draw. Like it's not just like, oh, I just got to lay down a shadow. Like like
yeah,
the classic chasing Amy thing. Inkers that are tracers
yeah,
are the bad inkers. And then the guys who are good inkers, well, they're actual artists. They could actually probably draw it themselves if they wanted to. It's just they're working in a collaborative effort. And so, but they understand what it is when you're penciling. And so that's what, like I said, and I think you've said that to me in the past, that what you like is like a penciler, an inker who understands your pencils and how you do what you do. And that's what you
yeah.
want in an inker who understands that. And so when you get someone
They,
who is, great, but then if you get someone who isn't, well, then it turns out not so great.
yeah, they have to be a bit of a mind reader to know where you're going. And actually, as a penciler, you have to be a bit of a mind reader for the writer. You have to be able to get inside that guy's story, and because they're just telling you the story, they're not telling you how to draw it or anything like that. And you have to learn how to tell their story. And it's really a great feeling when you get it back and they go, this is just how I imagined it, or better than I imagined it. That's your job. Is to sort of get into their headset, into their mind, and just go wherever they're going. You take them in that direction. Like it's like that Aikido stuff where you direct the force. Someone throws a punch and you continue it on the way, so you enhance it. That's kind of what you do
Well,
in
one thing I've always
storytelling. You
wondered
take a story
about
and
art like
pardon me.
one thing I've always wondered about art like this is like I noticed this here. I'll pick it up again here. You can see this line right here in the image that's on the paper, and
Mhm.
this is where the cutoff is on the cover. So when you see the published version, all this stuff in between these two lines here, between this line and this one, none of it shows. It's all gone when you see the
Yes.
published version. And I was wondering, is there a reason that the artists will go way past this line there to get that extra? I mean, what's the, because I would think that if you
Well,
wanted to get a great image, you would want to work within the first line so that make sure you get all the image in, but yet it seems that you go out sometimes outside of that to the further line. And I just wonder what's the deal with doing that? Is there some special reason that's done, or is it just I was
yes.
just in a
The printing
groove and I
process.
just go in?
The printing process, especially for a bleed like this, is you have to leave enough room for the printer irregularities. It might cut it a little different here or there. So the artwork is, it's printed that way, but then it's cut, and the cutter may cut, you had that sort of safe area, so you can't put words in that area, stuff like that. But some of the art will be cut off, and that's just too bad. Like maybe the line goes through that guy's eye.
You can see that this guy here, like this guy, you got here the line that gets cut, and it cuts right over your and Jeff's name. So like your names aren't on the cover.
Oh, they're really on the art? They're not?
The signatures of the artists are not on the published version. Like to see exactly
Oh,
right here
really?
is the line, and it's like right above. Like see, you can see it right here. It's right above your names, and this is where it gets cut off. Is right there, and so your name.
Really,
I
I have to take a look at that. I never knew that they got cut off.
I can do that for you here. Let's bring up the published version, and I'll big it up here, and you can see there it is.
Oh yeah,
it gets cut right
gone.
there. Your name's cut off.
Yeah,
and so too is part of the bottle, so you don't even get to see that it says gross beer on it. You just see the OSS is all you get, and so you don't know what that says. And so like I said, that's one of the things I like about original art like this is like you'll get to see stuff sometimes. Like I said, when I got the art from you, I saw this. I'm like, gross beer. I said, oh my god, I never knew that's what it said. I could see some of the letters, but I didn't know what it said. It's like gross beer. That's hilarious. And then like down here, like, oh, that's where their signature were. They cut them off at that line, and they missed their signatures. And so that's why
that's weird, isn't it? That cutoff line would be so high up on that piece of paper. I didn't know that.
Yeah. But yeah, this is the one. It's like I said. Now, what is it that? Now you're known for doing your very beautiful women. Now, what is it? What is your approach to like how you do the female form differently from say the male form? Like what are some of the key differences you think that make for a great image with a female character like this? That would have you modify your approach when like say doing it with a male character?
Well, to me, in comics, you have the hyper masculine, hyper feminine, and so the men will be built, much bigger than any man is, and the women will be built much sexier than any. So the woman's her body's soft and curvaceous and beautiful and that sort of thing. Now you can kind of you can push that a little bit and make the woman a little more fit, and it'd still be hot like Adam Hughes can do it, fit hot woman and that kind of thing. But at least at the time, the women when I was drawing this, most women were kind of played up. The smoothness, the sexiness, the suppleness of her, it was played up, so that's part of the joke too. I mean, this is funny because this is one of the first of the bad girls. I think Billy Tucci came out with She first, and then that was a big hit, and so they started to do more of the bad girl kind of thing, and this was probably like 6 months after that or something like that, if I remember correctly. So it was a lot of fun though. It's unfortunately today I'm kind of sick of it though. Like as far as the bad girl, like every show has some girl throwing around 10 guys. They're 250-pound muscle men, just like, oh gosh, I started that. Darn it.
You're saying the novelty has worn off, Dan, of this. Is that what you're saying? The novelty has worn off.
Well,
Right?
I
Like back
don't
when
mind it.
you did it here, it was like something kind of new, something kind of unique and
Yeah.
different that you see all the time. And now you've seen it so much in recent times, just like, yeah, it's kind of played out now. They need to like maybe back off that a little bit.
Well, it's okay, like as a fun thing, and it's enjoyable, and it's kind of cute where the girl's beating up the guy. That's funny and kind of cute, and you don't want to see the other way around. So, uh, but now it's kind of turned into hyper feminism. Like women can do anything men can do. Like, nah, you know what I'm saying? Like it's gotten serious. And now that it's serious, it's like now I don't like it because the influence is real strong. People say, women can be police officers, and you see some police officer, a woman, get beat the crap out of by an average strength man. And it's just like, no, they're not supposed to be. That's not the right. And it's because of this kind of stuff where it's just like women can do anything, guys can do. No, they can't. It's just reality. Muscle strength isn't the same.
There's a difference between reality and fantasy. There's a difference between the two.
Yeah. I mean, women certainly there are strong women and stuff, but the strongest woman, it still isn't nearly as strong as a sort of a strong man. It's like, so it's just it's just realistic. I mean, I'm only 5'9". I don't think I should be a police officer. Because I can't take on, because if I have to take on a guy who's 250 pounds and 6'3", I'm going to lose. The fight. So I'd have to use my gun. And the whole purpose of being a big police officer, so you don't have to use your gun. You can subdue someone with your power and strength and size and stuff. So you need the biggest guys and that sort of thing. And that's where all this stuff gets all messed up, So I kind of, it's fun if you keep it fun. But just when they start taking it seriously, as they're doing now, and you remember that the Hulk stuff, the She-Hulk, where she looked like a man, and it's just like, no. It's like, don't do that. Let women be as girly as they want to be, and guys, because I've said before, like comic books are about what men want to be or what they want to have, and what they want to be is that macho man that attracts a girl. If you're handsome like Bruce Wayne, and you're rich, you're brave, you're dashing, you're mysterious.
A little bit of that apartment.
Yeah, so every guy wants to be Bruce Wayne, right? You want to be Batman, and that's these comic books are all the same thing. They're knights in shining armor. Iron Man's a knight in shining armor. Same with Captain America. Same with Thor. They're all sort of the same character, and also I say the stories can be about what men have, and men like strong women. They don't dislike strong women, but beautiful, strong women. So that what they desire is the nature. It's all birds and bees. It's all nature. What they want to have and what they want to be, and that's what sells comic books. Now they're trying to change it and say, oh, if you don't want to read this gay character, then you're anti-gay. No, I'm not anti-gay. I'm just not gay. It's like why don't you see grandma superheroes? Is that men are anti-grandma? No, they just don't want to be a grandma. They don't want to fantasize about being a grandma or a mom or a baby. They want to fantasize about being a man, a tough, badass guy. So that's what they've lost track of. They've lost the vision of what men really like. These are fantasies for men. Well, I'm not built like the Batman, Not if maybe 25 years ago I wasn't in bad shape, but now I'm gravity wins. Everything's shrinking. But anyways, even today though, as an older guy, I still think about I would have fantasy. I would fantasize about being a tough, strong guy. Like it's not much has really changed in that realm. So for any age, you want to be that alpha male. Nothing wrong with that. That's good because when you get older, you're that knight in shining armor to your wife, and that's a good thing for young men to have. I really believe in it. I love comics and I love what they influence have on society in a positive way. And there's nothing wrong with being attracted to a woman and who's attractive. That's perfectly fine too. So and saving the fair maiden, so to speak. That's romantic. It's fine. It's guy. These are actually romantic stories for men. These comic books. And I think that's a good thing,
Well, speaking
so
of,
I'm sorry. Did I derailed you totally, James? Sorry there.
Well, speaking of saving the fair maidens and all that jazz, we're going to get into Dan's piece. Now, this is the piece Dan, he still owns this. This is something he still has in his own personal collection. And when you see it, I think we're going to understand kind of why he does, because I would want to have it in my collection too if it was me. And here we are. This is from Strange Tales, number 18. This is like, I think, like the 5th work Dan had ever done at Marvel. This is like from 1988. And, you know, just inks by the great Kevin Nolan. And just, I mean, just you can just see it in here, just the darkness of the rich blacks. And yet, you know, all that detail, like all that stuff in the background, the details, and, you know, the details on her uniform and in her hair, they still stand out even with the darkness. And as always, my personal thing, I love this right here. I love me some Zip. Zipatone is like, to me, there is nothing more than comic books than Zipatone. That's when you know you're reading comics, when you see Zipatone. So,
yeah. And as if this wasn't good enough, as if this wasn't good enough that he inked this, he colored it too, very creatively. Really, his colors were very unique, unusual for comics. No one ever really seen anything like it. It's fascinating colors, as well as an inker. Tremendous artist. So as James, you know, when I drew this, I was like, this is one of my first stories, and this, it's kind of rare where someone takes your beginning artwork and makes it into really good stuff, and that's what happened here. This is a lot. This is Kevin Nolan in here, and like the background, the stylization of the line, all that stuff. I drew those. I drew those, you know, rocks in there, but then he stylized them all. You know, that the faces are stylized. That go down to that woman's face especially. I could show you that the originals. The mouth I drew was pretty good, but his was really stylized. It was just fantastic. It was beautifully done. I mean, so it was incredible. And I remember, you know, when I got this back, and Carl Potts was the editor, and I said, he goes, yeah, we got this inker, this Kevin Nolan guy, and I didn't know who he was or anything. And I saw it, I'm like, can this guy ink more my stuff? You know, like I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Everything was just fantastic. I couldn't believe it, you know. So he made it beginner drawings look top of line, and it's still hold up to date because he's so good. And it's kind of funny because I was listening to professionals and stuff like that. You know, got the Graham Nolan, Billy Tucci, and Aaron, and all the gang there of real pros, and they were all talking about their favorite inkers. They had an episode on their favorite inkers, and they all said, "Who would you want to have your stuff inked by?" And they're all like, Kevin Nolan, yeah, Kevin Nolan. Oh, that'd been great to have something inked by Kevin Nolan. And I'm like in the chat, like, almost like they're gonna be mad at me. Like, I had something I inked by Kevin Nolan. Like, it was my first draw, and they're like, yeah, they're gonna throw stuff at me, you know. Sorry, I didn't mean it, you know.
You're jealous. They're all jealous.
They're all jealous and mad. Like, I mean, like, I'm sorry, I didn't know, I didn't plan on it. Yeah. So, but it's kind of fun because I feel, of course, very grateful and privileged to have somebody who's so skilled to take my beginner pencils, and make them look fantastic. So it was just wonderful. I mean, do you want to see the original? I got the original here.
Oh, there you go.
All right, if you make me big, I'm going to take off the blur for a second. Okay, so there it is.
Let's see if I can do this right. I've never. This is where we get our boomerness, folks. Let's see. That's not it.
I wonder if the lighting is better if I hit.
There you go.
Oh, the lighting's pretty good, actually.
Wow, look at that. That is just incredible. That detail. I mean, like the detail on her lips in that shot of her head right there. With
know.
The texture it's in there, in those
Isn't
lips.
It great?
Just incredible.
Yeah, all those lines, they're beautiful. Look how you did the tire, just that, just that dropout line work, and
it's like what do they call that? Like high contrast. Like he's not even using lots of fine detail. It's like
it's line dropout. It's just shapes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's darks and whites that make the image. Yeah, and again, there it is. That zipatone in the mouth right there. That's comics, baby. That's comics.
Look at her. She's like this super thin young girl, but kind of um, not fully developed. But I guess but there's a ballerina. I guess she was kind of a ballerina, and that's kind of the idea. So we
Yeah,
didn't
she
draw
was a
her
dancer.
kind of we didn't draw her kind of this one voluptuous because she's sort of a young person. But it's not gratuitous. It's really nice.
No.
Now this is the thing that I just thought was so cool, man. Let's see how close I can get. Wait a minute. Hang on, I gotta go this way. Look at that face. Oh, look, he's got. I didn't even notice it till. It's funny you don't even see this till you put it on camera. The zip on the eyebrows. Isn't that
Yes.
cool? Yeah, look at that face. You go and see how simple those lines are, but they're so fine. We're talking about putting things just in the right place, just the right place. If those lines were any thicker around that nose, it would ruin the beauty of the nose. Even though she's evil, she's beautiful.
Yes. Well, beauty can be evil, as we all know.
Hmm.
But
Yeah. So
yeah,
that's
so
my
I just wondered,
show
like,
and tell there.
what now concerning the actual page itself, was it you who came up with the idea on what to make the creature that she would fight would be, or was that in the actual story itself? Did it say, like, a giant lizard monster or something, or did they just say she's fighting a creature of darkness, and you're like, well, I'll make it like a giant, like, Godzilla looking creature? I mean, was that your
I can't
idea?
remember what the script I can't remember what the script said, but it was sort of it was I'm sure it was kind of like a dinosaur lizard type thing. But the idea is it was a all light absorbing. It was all that's why it's all black. It's like there's no light will enter it. It just sucks all light away. So she's all
Your
light.
dark.
I think it was a kind of a manifestation of Cloak's powers, which were the darkness and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I
So
just think that's a spectacular image right there. Just the shot of her stabbing it, and then the explosion coming out from behind is just
mhm.
a great image. It's,
Yeah,
like I said,
almost
and
almost almost
zipatone in the
splash.
mouth just sets it off right there. The zipatone in the mouth sets it all off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
almost
and
a splash.
that's the thing too, is like how you work this in to a panel page where, like, a lot of guys, especially today, I think if they were doing this, this would have been like a splash page image all on its own. They wouldn't even have bothered to say, hey, let me add in like this great face over here and this shot over here with the tire. They wouldn't have had all that. They just done this, and that would have been the page, just this image right here. But yet
Yeah,
you get that in there. It still has the impact of a splash page, and yet there's so much more storytelling in this page
yeah.
than just that one image.
Or
And that's
or they would have or they would have had to go outside the panel, which I'm not a big fan of things busting out of panels because I think it breaks the third or the fourth wall in a way, and you suddenly, it takes away from the realism. I like the idea of it being a film or camera that you set up and took a picture. You know what I'm saying? And I think
and
that's
so, like, with a picture,
that's
you only
more
get a
better. It's
certain
better for
amount of image in the
storytelling,
picture. Yeah.
more cinematic. You can still go in for the close-ups and all that kind of stuff. You just got to squeeze them into panels and stuff.
Well, see, that's something I've always
So,
wanted too with artists, is like, how do they figure out how to lay out the page? I mean, I know there are some writers who are extremely detailed in the descriptions. They'll they're almost like they're sitting over your shoulder telling you how to draw it in a way in that script.
yeah,
But a lot of writers I know aren't like that. They're a little more loose with it. And so I just wondered how it is an artist comes up with a way to lay the page out to make it flow, and so that it feels so seamless like this, and
yeah.
yet it still conveys exactly what the writer wanted to convey. You said yourself that you got to be kind of like part mind reader for a writer
Yes.
to understand what it is they
Yes.
want. I was wondering, how do you figure that kind of thing out? Is there a trial and error? Do you, like, do maybe some quick sketch stuff and talk to the writer and say, here's what I thought, what do you think? And or is it just you just go with your gut?
When I read a
How
script, like this. I think this was probably full script, and I saw it had, broken down into four panels. So I got to decide what do I want to do with the four panels. Now I often pick the big frame to be the money shot. What's going on? And really in most pages, I try to have a beginning, middle, and end. So I often will start out with the full scene, where it's just like if you're telling a story to someone, you just don't say this monster got stabbed in the belly. It's like first you got to say where am I? I was over here the other day. I was at the grocery store, and then this monster came out through the soup section, and then got stabbed in the belly with, what I mean. You got to set your scene first. So I'm a big fan of the first panels being a scene, being showing the environment. Then you can start to move in for close-ups and talking, and then you can maybe show your money shot, your big scene, and then the ending. You want some kind of a ending, like a little bit of a drama. So you have you're turning the page, visually striking. We're moving in on her. She has thought bubbles. So let's get into her mind. Like let's go and going to do a close-up where she's thinking. I want to see those facial features reacting to what she's thinking. So that's kind of the way I'm approaching it. Really, every page is like a piece of music. You want it beginning, middle, end, the little story, little beginning, middle, end, and set the scene, set it up, like almost like in tennis or baseball. Here comes the pitch, smack it out of the park, and then run the bases, kind of thing. So it's that's kind of definitely the way I approach almost every page, and then every story is like that too. You introduce the scene, set the stage, and then and try to make the scene exciting too. They don't even know if they do that as much, do they? Splash pages, kind of with a hook. That's what you really need. A first page has got to be a exciting page. Wow, I want to read more. You should really, I think for a good comic book, you should it just grab you by the throat, by the shirt, and just pull you into the comic book, and you don't even have any choice. You're just you're starting off, and you want to read page after page after page. Every page should be like that, where it's, wow, that was great, and all right, that's even greater, but even the whole story just kind of build up to something, usually maybe a big splash page or something fun,
Yeah.
And then you can cool it down, and it's like a roller coaster ride, it starts clicking you up, and then you do the spin and the whoops and all this, and then you come back and a nice little, coasting to the ride, and everyone gets out and is happy, and that's what you do in a comic book and in a story. And
well,
so I think about the way per page like that. I think about the story as a whole like that. But when I read a script, I imagine it in my mind.
Yes, and you spoke about the great colors that Nolan did, and so let's actually see some of that here. Oh, wrong page. Shoot, I got the wrong one. Oh well, but
that's
again,
fine
you can
though,
see
because well, you can see now he doesn't go with a bright blue, which that was the thing at the time. He's got a muted blue green, and and then the rocks are kind of like almost they're kind of a reddish brown, and then look, he chose pinks and stuff, hot pinks, really unusual pinks for that background, soft pinks, and then that orange, it's not a bright orange. So all these colors are kind of muted, a little bit grayed, very unusual, So there's my Spidey.
Well, I was going to save that for the end, but I guess we'll get to that now. So this is where you can see where Dan puts his color theory to work. This is and this is unpublished, isn't it? This is an unpublished version of something you did.
No, this is in it's in Marvel Masterpieces, and
oh, is it?
So yes, published in Marvel Masterpieces. Could be my favorite thing at Marvel I ever did. Could be.
Wow.
And you can see the heavy influence I had of McFarlane at the time. McFarlane was really hot, and I sat back and I thought, this is what you got to be as an artist. Like, okay, McFarlane's really hot. How do I incorporate that into my style? Because I don't want to draw like McFarlane. I want to draw my realistic style. But what can I bring in that he did well? And I thought, because I wasn't a big fan of McFarlane's like Mary Jane and Peter Parker and stuff and Aunt May. I thought that was way off brand, too cartoony. But his Spider-Man wasn't. I thought his Spider-Man was a real dynamic realism that I really enjoyed. So I pulled in. Whenever I draw Spider-Man today, it's McFarlane Spider-Man eyes. A lot of people really hate him. I love him. I love the thickness of the boldness of that shape of that line. It's just fun. It's just really great. So, and that's of course a McFarlane villain too, the Hobgoblin. And so it's sort of like I was taking McFarlane stuff and making it real.
McFarlane webbing right here. We see that.
McFarlane webbing? Yeah.
Spaghetti webbing, yes.
Yeah, and this is done in my famous or infamous, I don't know, uh, colored pencil technique. You know, the color. Everyone thinks that's painted, right? No, it's colored pencil on a frosted mylar. It's not vellum. It's a frosted
I'll
mylar,
try to
and
close it up here a bit. And I think you can see that, like right here in Spider-Man's face, you can tell that like the texture of it, it is not paint. You can tell by looking at it, this is not paint. This is something else.
yeah,
And it's like right here at this edge of the eye, you can see it's like just that slight bit of like just a slight bit of smudge, like it puts this almost like a little bit of shadow right at the
that's colored
edge.
pencil. That's colored pencil texture. Yes.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Is this right here kind of show you this is not paint. This paint does not do this, and that's how you know
Yeah.
this is not paint.
The
So yeah,
extraordinary thing, though, is that it appears to be paint. When you look at the original, it looks
yeah,
like paint, and so that's what it drew me to it, because it was actually a very fast technique. I could draw this out, and because it was transparent, very transparent, more transparent than tracing paper. I could put that right over the drawing, and then just start coloring. And once I had reached a certain point, I take the drawing away because it does shine through, and then you have to finish it up and stuff. But man, it was amazingly fast. This is how I did that 3-part Star-Lord series of Timothy Zahn wrote. I did that all painted with the color pencil technique because I could do a couple of pages a week with that technique, and that
I,
for a painted book, fully painted book, it was great. That was actually the problem with the McFarlane Star Lord. I mean the Timothy Zahn Star Lord is that uh, see, this picture here is very large. That when my colored pencil takes a double reduction, all the textures disappear. But when I was working on 8x10, it only took like a half size reduction. All the texture of the pencil was picked up. And you know this about trying to scan my pencils in. It picks up weird textures that you don't even see with your eye. It's so weird. So I really I've abandoned this because I now with the computer, because the computer can do it really, really good. Because otherwise I have to worry about reproduction and trying to photograph the thing and scan it and then fix it all and that sort of thing. And now I just, like, if I did this piece today, I would do it. I would draw it, but I'd scan it and do it in Photoshop. And another neat thing about Photoshop, which is wonderful, is when you're printing that in Photoshop, you can, like, I can go in and make sure that red is 100% red. You know what I'm saying? It's it
yeah,
says it in Photoshop. So when it goes to the printer will say 100% red. So I know we'll get the most bright red. And I want that when I do my illustrations, I did all these trading cards and stuff. I wanted it to not lose, because when I saw illustrations of paintings, they often painted them like a painting, and they lost the color, the brilliance of what I love about comics is the colors. That's what draws us in. We love it. So I wanted to keep that in the paintings themselves. So that's what I think it was. This is a success. So
well, and something else I see here again, just from the little I know of artistic color theory, is the way you're using in the foreground with Spider-Man, and even with Hobgoblin, more in the foreground and in the background. And in the foreground, their colors are very bright, very, very hot. You would call hot colors. They're right near the orange, the yellow, the red in your face. And then in the background, you got that blue and that purple color, sort of the cool
yep,
colors in the background, sort of pushing the brighter colors forward.
yep, warm and cool color scheme. Yes, yeah. I put and I pushed it especially in comics. I really wanted the purples to be purple, the blues to be blues, the reds to be red. The same stuff you get in comics, only make that real. That was my idea, and pretty successful. And it's funny because people remember these more than anything else than I did for in my comic book career, which was from '87 to '97. So yeah, yeah.
And like it's
But I tell
beautiful
you,
work.
it's interesting now, James. It's like I'm coming back into playing that with the idea of doing comics. I'm working on my own comic right now, and I had thought I was done with comics because just like I couldn't make any money from it, and now like this crowdfunding thing, everything. Oh, it's the greatest thing ever. I'm excited about comics again. But I was in '87 to '97. You can see I'm a pretty good artist. I had to leave because I was making $400 a week. That's 20 grand a year. I can't. And I'm thinking I can't raise a family on 20 grand a year. It's not going to happen. So I went into advertising. Had to. I had to leave this behind,
and
which is heartbreaking.
from what I'm hearing from some people, is those rates that you were paid back in the late '90s like that, they're still paying those same rates today, 30
I
years later.
know. Yeah, that's why they have to go to the Philippines and South America and places where the money goes a lot farther because it's just it you can't make a living doing this stuff anymore, which is really sad. The readership is disappearing. That's the problem too because it's not in. It used to be in all the like I said all the spinner racks used to be in every convenience store, and kids would love them. Now there's no way to get introduced to comics. Even the comic book shops are closing. So where do you get comics? It's not part of the culture. I know so many kids that they like give them a comic and they don't even know how to read one. Well, which do you go up or down or where do you go? It's like
But they all
they
know how
actually
to read
teach them.
manga, though. They all know how to read manga.
Apparently, yeah, well, yeah. But I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, there's a lot of comic readers of manga, but I don't know how much it actually is that really in the culture as it was with comic books, and because like I said, when even with manga, you don't necessarily see them in the checkout lanes at supermarkets. Do you know what I mean? It's they we really. I think if you want to get comics going again, you need to think outside the box and start thinking about where we can put these comic books. Like I think it was Graham had a great idea, and I thought, whoa, this is perfect. He said, why don't you put a comic book rack in the movie theater? They're going to the movies. They're seeing these superhero. All you gotta do is put the superhero comic books in the movie theater. They would sell like hotcakes. Kids would take them home and read them. It's like and but they're so stuck in their ways. They would never think of that. Like they could sell out. Imagine every movie theater where you got openings of Iron Man #3, and you got Iron Man the comic books. A long bunch of comic books for Iron Man latest line. Of course,
Well,
the latest line is he's a woman.
Putting in those racks, I think would matter. If you're going to put in the quality stuff, well then yeah, that works. But you're going to put in like garbage stuff, like we're seeing today, probably not going to help you all that much.
Yeah, well, I was going to say if they go into and they see the Iron Man, it's a woman, it's Riri Williams. Forget about it. So you got, that just shows how bad they are. This political correct stuff is ruining comic books. Only thing it should matter is does it sell? Forget about anything else. Does it sell? If you create a diverse character like Black Panther sold pretty well. If you create a diverse character and he sells, make more of them. I like the Black Panther as a white guy. There's black guys who love to read Captain America. There's white guys who love to read Black Panther. All that matters is does it sell? Don't say, oh, he's not going to be interested in that because he's black or he's white. No, he may love that character. It's just make good characters and find out what if it sells. That should be the criteria. This sort of you got to have the right amount of diversity in your comic book. It's like screw that. Make a comic because you're saying that people are racist. They can't like it unless it's a certain racial makeup. Like bullshit,
All you need to do
Anyways.
is make it the character universal, where anybody can see themselves. They don't have to look just like them. They don't have to believe just like them. They can just read the character and be like, I get what that character is. I kind of like this about him. And now you've got a fan for life. That's all you need is make them universal. Universal things that anyone can get into.
Getting back to that power fantasy, it may be that a young white guy fantasizes about being a powerful black guy. There's nothing wrong with that. That's fine. You know what I'm saying? That's the power fantasies are power fantasies. A young black man could decide he wants to fantasize about being a blonde haired, blue eyed Captain America. That's okay. He can do that. It's fine. There's it's I don't know where these people want to police your dreams, police your fantasies. You can have there's nothing wrong with these. Are healthy fantasies. Are good for people. It's just a matter is do they want it? Put it out there and see. That should be the criteria.
That's true. I completely agree with that. So I guess that'll about do for this, folks. But before we head out, I want to again thank Dan for joining us today and giving us some great insights into art and other things. And also, Dan, do a quick show here. What do you got on the horizon? Anything we should be watching out for? And like I said, I know Aaron Lopresti is getting ready to start fulfilling on Kit Carter, which you did the back cover for. Anything else you got coming up that we should be watching for?
Well, I let's see. I'm doing a lot of just pinups, covers, fun things. I just did a T-shirt for Cecil. It's like a Gold's Gym kind of design, and it's really funny. And so I'm really enjoying. To tell you the truth, I don't really care about creating my own comic book. I really like just connecting with other comic book creators. That's really interesting for me because a lot of these guys are my age, and they have families, and they're conservative guys, and I go on these shows. I just get a kick out of them. I just like, or I even if I'm not on the show, I'll listen while I work on my own stuff, and because I'm not in comics, I'm still working in advertising, but unless if my comic takes off, maybe I'll go back into comics again full time. But
There you
right now, I'm
go.
paying the bills. I'm paying the bills with advertising. That's fine. I don't really care, to tell you the truth. I'm not that concerned about it. I really just want to see great comic books. That's where my YouTube channel, How to Draw Comics, comes in. I want to see the next generation of guys. I want to pass my knowledge of all my tricks and of the trade that I have to the next generation. That gives me happiness. I'm so excited
Well,
to see Aaron and Andy and all these guys becoming independent. They don't have to draw anything there now. They can draw whatever they want. So they're drawing these things that they love, and they get the crowdfunding gives them the two things they need: time and money. I didn't have that when I was in the comics. Now they can work. They can have 6 months to work on it. They can make that thing mint, beautiful. It's wonderful. So I'm
well,
just happy.
speaking of hooking up with creators, I'll tell everyone here, make sure to check out Aaron Lepresti's channel on Wednesdays around, I think, was it like 1:30 you guys get together for the Graybeards. And this is the piece Dan did at the last Graybeards. It was just not too long ago. You can see right here, it's a sweet Wolverine piece done in a Bill Sienkiewicz style. And, they gave me a little jazz saying they didn't think the penciled version looked very Sienkiewicz. But like
Yeah, I
I
got
remember
really.
I remember early on with his work, like on his work on Fantastic Four and some of those Dazzler covers he did in the very early '80s. This style reminded me a little bit of that, and then when you colored it, it reminds me even more of the early Sienkiewicz style, like when he was still trying to ape Neil Adams more rather than do his
Mhm.
more like unique style that he has now. This is like his early days style where he was trying to fit in with that crowd of like the Neil Adams realistic looking kind of stuff. And so I think this totally fits in line. But yeah, make sure to check that out. Dan's doing that, and you know,
Yeah, I can see it, James. Too. On Twitter today, I saw David Williams had his X4. What was the character? I forget the name of that character, but
Cannonball.
when I'm working on when I'm on Graybeards, I can't read the chat because I can't even hardly look at the screen because I'm over on my drawing table over there. And so I have to kind of get out of my chair to go over and take a look at what's going on. So I don't really see things to the end, and even then, I see it, kind of it's not big. So I saw it, and on Twitter when he posted, I'm like, I said, "You won this round, Williams. Maybe I'll get you." Like I have to admit, you won this round. This is because I did a good drawing here, but his was just it was so good. It was so good. So that's what I love, is to be with these other guys, and it challenges me. It tries to, do better, get better. I want to keep trying to improve my art. Even though I'm 59 years old, I'm better artist than I was a couple years ago because I've really been working
Well,
hard on it lately.
and folks out there, if you want to become a better artist, make sure to head on over to Dan's channel right here on YouTube called How to Draw Comics by Dan Lawlis. You can see right here, he's done tons of great stuff here. Let's pump out the videos here. Like you see right here, how to draw painting a female face, how to draw cars, how to draw the McFarlane Spider-Man. There you are right there, foreshortening. All the great stuff that you need to learn, all the great techniques that the artists have learned over the decades, the many years that they've worked. And Dan's putting this all out here for you guys, all for free. You guys can check it out. It's right here. Like I said, it's How to Draw Comics by books by Dan Lawlis, his own channel right here on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe as I have, so you don't miss out. And just great stuff
Hey,
here.
I'm getting good reviews.
tutorials.
I'm getting good reviews too. People like everyone who watches these videos are saying that I am explaining it in a way that's really clear and easy to understand. And that's what my goal is, to try to really try to try to get people. It's difficult because sometimes I do things instinctively, and I have to try to visual or verbalize what I'm doing when I'm drawing, to try to explain to people how I do it, the tricks and the way I approach a drawing. How I call it a roadmap. How do you get there from start to finish? So I'm getting really good reviews, and people are really liking it. And I want their feedback. So tell me, man, if you like it, please click the like button and share it with other people. Because this is, I'm sharing it with you. Share it with others. I'm sharing freely. Please share it with others freely, and that's
Well, and I
that
can
gives me
see the channel here
satisfaction.
is growing pretty good. You go almost up to 2,000 subscribers now. It's with 1.78. So come on, folks, let's get Dan some more subs out of this. Let's get him a few more in there. Let's get him over 1,800. We can do that. That's a doable goal. We can get Dan over 1,800 and keep him growing, and that way you can keep doing these great videos, showing you guys how to do that voodoo that he do so well. And that's a great thing to have, and a great resource at your disposal. So.
Yeah, thank you.
And that'll about do it for the show here. I want to thank everyone for joining me today. I hope you got some fun out of this. I hope you enjoyed seeing some sweet comic art, because I know I certainly did. I want to thank once again my companion and guest here, Dan Lawlis, for taking time out to do this with me. I hope you got a little fun out of this too, Dan. Seeing some sweet stuff.
Oh my gosh,
showing
yeah.
off. And
yeah, I haven't talked to you in a while, so it's we're catching up too. So
yes. And I'll be back again with some more of this soon. What I'm going to try to do with these, folks, is I'm going to try to see if I can get an artist towards me to do one at least once a month. So that's going to be kind of like the sort of timetable I'm working on, like a monthly thing with this. Because, got a lot of people's schedules. Had to schedule this with Dan. It didn't just happen because we wanted it to happen. So got to schedule stuff out, and I'll try to make them at least monthly if I can. But I'll be back again with some more of this stuff, and as well as other stuff. So make sure to check down there in the description section. You got links to all this stuff. I got links to Aaron's channel, so you can watch the Gray Beard. I got a link to Dan's channel where you can check out his great artistic tutorials, and of course some of my own links as well. And so you can check out some stuff that I'm doing here. And I will be back again soon with some more stuff. And so until next time, fellas and ladies, take care.